Pixar is back with yet another Toy Story movie, yes, Toy Story 4, which is the continuation of the original trilogy which ended 9 years ago. Wow, I can't believe it's been that long. This movie takes place right after the third film, where Andy is heading to college and he says goodbye to all his toys and his memories with them, and gives them all away to a sweet little girl named Bonnie. When Bonnie makes a new toy called Forky, he joins up with Woody, Buzz, and the others as they set off to yet another crazy adventure. I actually rewatched all of the original films leading up to this one, and I was very surprised how good they were. I can really appreciate those films a lot more now than when I was a kid. The Toy Story movies were probably my most favorite animated movies of all time because they had very elaborate stories, they were very emotionally satisfying, and you never really knew what to expect. They were much more than just animated movies for kids. They were very clever films and could relate to any one of us. So it was a very nostalgic experience watching them again. I remember the holiday of 2010 where I broke my wrist and I had to spend the whole holiday lying in bed, and the only movie I could watch back then at the time was Toy Story 3. And I watched the shit out of that movie. Again, I remember watching the first Toy Story for the very first time and being really creeped out at Sid and the toys that he would create and what he would do with them. I remember loving Jessie and Bullseye in the second Toy Story movie and being amazed at the final airplane sequence and that double Buzz Lightyear thing, which was really fun to watch. So you see, Toy Story has a very special place in my heart, and I'm sure for many others as well. Almost everyone in the theaters were either my age or above, all looking forward to seeing what kinds of shenanigans Woody and the gang were up to this time. The original trilogy finished off so well, so even after watching this movie, I'm still questioning whether or not this movie was completely necessary. I cried in all of the Toy Story movies leading up to this one, so I said to myself, if this movie made me feel the same way, made me feel very emotional, it taught me something special, then I would be happy. And with the 100% score on Rotten Tomatoes and the high praise among critics around the world, I was confident that this movie was going to make me feel this way. Unfortunately, it didn't, and this film really didn't do it for me. I'm just kidding, no, I actually really enjoyed this movie, but I am slightly disappointed. While this movie is a feels-good movie, and it's probably the funnest and funniest Toy Story movie we've had so far, and it did have a great ending, one that certainly lives up to the reputation of the original films, I'm still not completely satisfied. And that may be largely due to me going into this movie with very high expectations, because as a film by itself, it's great, it's really awesome. It's these toys going on an adventure and saving each other in very creative ways, and there are some very emotionally gripping scenes and some instances that can really relate to a lot of people. And the animation is just so photorealistic. The whole story is about Woody and everyone else trying to protect Bonnie and making sure she feels happy by making sure that Forky is with her at all times, because ultimately her happiness is their happiness. This movie had a lot of heart, and I like that a lot because it stays true to the original films. But compared to the original films, this one is probably my least favorite, and that's based on two really big reasons. There's not really an antagonist in this movie, it's not as dark as the previous movies. Remember Sid and Lotso? Yeah. We got a tiny hint of that in this movie, it suddenly turned into a horror movie when these ventriloquist dolls suddenly turned up, and then it kind of developed into something else, which really surprised me. But personally, I would have rather liked to see an actual terrifying antagonist. Because the antagonist in this movie kind of turned into a protagonist, she didn't really have any ulterior motives, they were all, good ones. And this movie isn't as emotionally satisfying, I would say. I expected to tear up, but I actually didn't. In the first movie, I love seeing the relationship development between Buzz and Woody, and seeing Buzz overcome his inner ideals, and that was really fun and emotional to watch. In the second movie, learning about Jessie's backstory was very emotionally touching. And towards the end of Toy Story 3, when the toys were all holding hands and they were about to get incinerated, or towards the end when Andy was finally saying goodbye to his toys for the very last time. That felt like someone tore my heart from my chest. I feel like those films were all more emotionally impactful, and while others might think differently, this is how I felt. I really liked the addition of Keanu Reeves as Duke Kaboom. I actually didn't know that it was him until after the movie. He was hilarious, and also Key and Peele as the bunny and the rabbit duo. They were hilarious as always, but I thought we would get more screen time of them, and I wish we did. In fact, most of the original characters didn't get any screen time at all. The Jesse, Mr. Potato Head, I don't even think Bullseye got any individual screen time at all. I miss seeing the original characters, but I get that they weren't the main focus of this movie. It was more about Woody and Bo Peep. And Bo Peep, can we talk about her for a second? Because she turned from timid, shy sheep girl to commando give no fucks. And I really like that obvious transition because what she says she goes through in the movie translates to her actions on screen. I also really like the backstory we got of her at the beginning of the movie because she disappeared for 2 movies or something. I actually didn't even realize, but that was some good backstory nonetheless. So Toy Story 4, while it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be, the ending does it justice and it's just an overall fun and entertaining movie to watch. I'm going to give Toy Story 4 an A-. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Have you seen Toy Story 4? What did you think about it? Please leave a comment about your thoughts below. Like the video if you liked it, and drop a sub to help the channel out. Also, feel free to check out my previous video. Until next time.